J.B.T. Media. The world under the microscope.
And it's wrapping around the world, and it was made by man because of all these signals they're putting out there. And so NASA has a cover story, even when what they're hiding gets found to some degree, they have to have a cover story. And you find documents that are declassified from the 1950s when we allegedly had it figured out that they are assuming it says derived their let me just read this whole thing. The near sun halo, near sun. These halos are close to the sun. Think about that. 98 million miles away or 92 million miles away. They're saying near sun halos. And also from the sun on a surface perpendicular to these rays, the dissertation contains a certain formula of the brightness of the sky, taking into consideration only the brightness of the first order and derived on the assumption of a flat Earth. And so they're talking about that here. Read on down to the very bottom. They are measuring the brightness along the almucanter of the sun and 5 to 6 points of the firmament located at various distances. So they're talking about the assumptions of the flat Earth and the firmament in the same page, right there, declassified in 2000, put out there, published in 1953.
That is
so
amazing.
really cool stuff talking about it. They knew about it. Let me see what that slide is right there. There you go. But the Van Allen belts essentially were a cover story for the firmament, why we can't get back to the moon. And this was a cover story invented in 1958, but some of the Apollo sun god astronauts didn't even know about it when they were interviewed later by people questioning the authenticity of the moon landing. And they say, well, they didn't affect us, and I don't even think they'd been discovered yet. You know, like they're saying these things as if, well, if we went through it, surely we accounted for it. Well,
You're right.
they had to have gone through it because it was a less distance away than the moon. So they passed right through it, went to the moon, came back many times, playing golf, dancing around, didn't care, weren't worried about it. And so that barrier is a cover story to keep us from going back to the moon, keeping us trapped in what they call low Earth orbit. And we're not going around a ball. They're going up as high as they can go, rocket ships pointing back down, peacefully guarding this place, the ice, the circle of the dry land, the circle of the earth around us called Antarctica. And they've been guarding it peacefully. Think about that. Since 1959, all these world powers studying ice. How long can you study ice?
Right.
Like how long? And they've studied it for years and years and years and years. And they're still doing it peacefully. And the Antarctic Treaty isn't set to expire until the 2040s. And it doesn't really expire. They're just going to kind of like revamp it probably and put in more measures in place if the return hasn't happened. But so, the two things.
For anybody that this is like their first time ever hearing any of this stuff, they don't understand the model or anything. Why was there some treaty that you can't go to Antarctica?
Yeah. Why can't we go there? We can go up north, 60th north parallel.
I'm asking you, like, what would be kind of the answer? Like,
the answer? Because if you were to explore, you would find out that shoreline, it's not an 11,000 mile circumference. There's definitely some more land out there. I'm not going to say it's an infinite plane. I can tell that the firmament goes downward as you get close to Antarctica. There are outer boundaries. The Book of Enoch talks about them, these mountains, these resources out there. I mean, mountains, these individual mountains that are made of materials that would be worth zillions of dollars. Right. And the man himself, Admiral Byrd, the one that was doing the operations back then, high jump and deep freeze, he says there's mountains of coal. He's kind of verifying some of the things in Enoch. He's like, yeah, there's these. It's a treasure trove. It's a very rich place of these things and resources. And I'm thinking, wow, these countries should be fighting over that. There's an energy crisis, right? And now let's just close it down. After he says that, it gets closed off. No one's allowed to go there. There's the Antarctic Treaty. NASA forms. Operation Fishbowl happens. Operation Operation Dominic and Fishbowl were pretty much the same operation there.
Which is what they're trying to launch rockets to hit the dome. And
they said that when they shot nuclear bombs up to the as high as they could go near the ionosphere, they caused an aurora light.
Oh,
what? Why would shooting a bomb into the air cause an aurora light if you're shooting it up where deep space is? Because that's what they were aiming for, seeing how it would affect the ionosphere and communication, allegedly. That's a really dumb reason to shoot bombs into the air. Let's see how it affects the air above us. You know, like
this is the modern day Tower of Babel. Like God destroyed a building, a tower that was going too high up, and now man is like, you know what? We're not going to build a building. We're going to ignite rockets into the sky, and I think they want to escape. Because the serpent in the garden, that was his whole lie, was that you're in a prison, that Yahweh has put you in this garden prison, and he's trying to keep you from evolving. And so, the heart of man is desperately wicked. And if these elitists think, oh, there's something more out there, and we are in a prison, they're going to try to blast that thing. And it's pretty crazy to think about what they're trying to do, because if they were able to blast it, which I don't think they can, it would just flood. The whole world would flood. The windows of heaven would be opened up, right?
Yeah, and they just stopped instantly. Once they set up a big bomb, they said, they just shut down the operation. They said, we ran out of funding, and they quit doing it. Wow. And so the Most High laughs at the things they're doing. Like, it's not, they can't do it. He knew what they were going to try to do before they tried to do it, when he was making the firmament on day 2 of creation. And that's why when he was talking in Genesis 11, when he's talking about what they're going to do, what they're trying to do, he said, for one, it's not impossible. If they're trying to reach the firmament, it's not impossible. If they're united, they have the same language. But then he says, this is only the beginning of what they will do. Right. Nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them. And so that's only the beginning. He didn't say, they're going to do this, I'm going to send them out, and that's going to fix it. He says, this is only the beginning. And so that sounds like he knows they're planning to do more. They're going to be shooting bombs up. They're going to be creating these lies that people are going to believe. And a lot of the things in Revelation, that Armageddon, the threat from above, uniting people to fight against a threat, you have to believe there's a threat from above. You can't believe in you got to believe in aliens. Now Congress is saying aliens are real. We've got bodies, we've got specimens, and they're non-human origin, and they have these technologies, and they're slowly admitting these things to get the mystery of it, and for us to be like, I was right. I believed in aliens my whole life. I watched Unsolved Mysteries from the 80s to the 90s, and I've been a space fan ever since. Like, I was a space fan. I loved NASA stuff. I mean, like, watching the STS rocket launches and the dramatic, how they dramatized it, the shaking, then you get older and it's like, oh my goodness, space movies are everywhere now. And I would watch The Martian with my classroom. Wow, I started teaching science my first day on the job. They handed me a globe and said, hey, you're taking over this class, because I got kind of thrown into a really cool situation where it was earth science. Imagine that. My very first ever teaching gig after starting out, trying to get my certification after college. And they said, we're doing the Coriolis effect. Here's a blow up globe. Here's a dry erase marker. Have at it. And so I was doing that back then. And it's really cool. The Father's grace and mercy started me out that way, just to show me, stay humble. This was you. You were a space fan. You loved this stuff. You believed this stuff. You were excited about it. It seemed innocent. And now you're finding out it's not innocent. It's against his truth. It's Tower of Babel 2.0. And so be careful when you see the world powers agreeing on stuff. But I want to kind of move on, because I don't want to take up too much time. I know there's a lot of questions.
Have you seen the
curvature?
Have you seen this encyclopedia from when was it? Oh man, encyclopedia from
Britannica, the 50, or is it like the 1950s, 53?
Yeah,
maybe?
1958. Encyclopedia Britannica from 1958.
Talks about
what it says.
Doesn't it say there's like, the structure, like a dome-like structure, 13,000 feet high when they were exploring out there?
Right.
And it says they even get the latitude. Like, they tell you where it's at on them, like how far out it is, and it's out there beyond the ice wall that they had to go over with Operation High Jump. And when you look at these places, there's places called Dome in Antarctica. Lots of places called Dome. How many places called Dome? A lot. There's even a Deception Island, right when you get to the start of it. Deception Island, and a bunch of places called Dome, and I started looking into it, and all those places are flat. Why would you name a place Dome? Dome A, Dome B, Dome C.
That's weird, dude.
It's like, that's kind of fishy when we believe in that, and you're naming places after that, and there's a Masonic lodge down there, and there's, it's like, it's weird.
So
why would they do that?
This screenshot is from a video. If you can look it up yourself on BitChute. It's not going to be on YouTube, of course, for some reason, but look up 1958 Encyclopedia Dome, and the guy shows the book. He shows all the copyright and all that, opens it up, and the word he's looking up here it might be Antarctica. I can't remember what he's looking up, or it's firmament or something. But when you read it, it says with a dome 13,000 feet high, and it says the longitude and latitude. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I've never saw a mountain and said, "Oh, look, a dome." And
Yeah.
if there was a dome structure that high, that would be pretty. It would be on a map. And go to Antarctica on a map. Go to that place where it listed the latitude and longitude. It's
Yeah.
flat. It's a cartoon. It's a flat cartoon. A place that we've been studying for decades. We don't even
Wow.
have aerial photos of it on Google Maps, but everywhere else we
Wow.
do. Why is that one place stitched together like a quilted cartoon from? I mean, not Nintendo 64 did better with their graphics. Like it's pitiful. And
Wow.
so that's Antarctica. It's mysterious. They want it to be that way. They don't want you to go there. 14, I forget how many thousands of dollars. Back when I first tried to get a trip there, because I was wanting to go there. My wife likes to travel. It's like, let's go to Antarctica. This will be
Yeah.
fun. Here it is, 2018, 2017. And she's like, how much is it?
Oh
$40,000
my
one
goodness,
way. I was
bro.
like, well, I guess we can't go. That's what I make in a year almost.
Yeah.
Like can't do that. So that
That's an
limits
easy way
people
to
like
keep
me
people
from
from
going.
exploring, right?
Yeah, the wealthy will go. Yeah, they're already part of a club. And
What were you
so,
showing in the previous
oh,
slide?
first picture here, curvature. We've all seen the curve. I grew up seeing it daily. It's in every single photo from high altitudes, and
Yeah.
you see stuff like this because of a certain lens, but you
Right.
also see it warping in the other direction, which actually proves that it's flat because you can
Yeah.
only bend a flat horizon both directions. A
Right.
curved line, you can't bend it both ways perfectly, and so there's tests you can
Notice
do to prove that.
the horizon is in the upper half of the photograph. If the
Mm.
horizon was in the lower half of the photograph, it would be bending the other way. It'd be concave. But
Yep.
all these
Yeah.
pictures, the horizon's in the upper half of the photo, which is bending it with that fisheye lens.
Yeah, classic fisheye lens trickery there. You can make any flat surface curved. And so that's what's been done. And you can debunk the curve by using a fisheye lens and trying to make a curved line bend perfectly both ways. Can't do it. I've
Mm.
tried. Same with lasers. You can debunk the curved water aspect with a laser. We've had lots of people doing this. My friend Ben from Taboo Conspiracy and one of his buddies from FE Core, I'm trying to remember his name. I think it was Matt, got a tripod, went across a lake 21 miles, meaning that their tripod should have been 218 feet tall to see the laser, was right
Wow.
above the water, just 5 feet above the water. And not only could you see
Wow.
the laser, and they say it's the laser curving around. Does this laser light look curved?
Oh my
No.
goodness.
Going in a straight line, and you can see the reflection on the water as well. So if that was reflection on the water they're seeing, the reflection on the water would have to jump up and go around the curve
Yeah.
straight up 90 degrees and then curve around along with this laser and then drop below it and look like it's a reflection on the water. You can't have that. If
Yeah.
the laser can curve, okay, maybe it can. Lasers can curve in certain mediums, but not the reflection on the water because you wouldn't be able to
Mm.
see that. So you can see both.
Wow.
And I had to adjust the brightness. They do this at night. There's a lot of water in our air to cut through. The
Yeah.
laser will spread out and that water aspect is huge because when you watch a sunset, you've been able to stare at it with your eyes without sunglasses. When it sets at a beach, it's an orange glow. It's beautiful. You can watch it go down. Try doing that at noon. You'll go blind.
Yeah.
Why? Because we're staring through a 60-mile high. We're underwater. We've got all this air and water stacked up on top of us. It's like we're in a swimming pool of air. It
Mm-hmm.
has its limits, its density. It can only stack up so high. And so we can't see very far because we're staring through water, just like you can't see the bottom of the ocean. And
Right.
people say, well, you can't see the sun. It goes dark. That means the world's a globe. You can't see the bottom of the Marianas Trench from the surface. That doesn't mean that the ocean is all curved right there in between you and the ocean
Right.
seafloor. It's just there's water filtering out light. Submarines need lights for a reason. Sunlight will only go so far. So we have our limitations. And you see that with lasers. They kind of can only go about 25 miles or so. I think 25 miles is the record, maybe a little further than that now. But line of sight signal, or not line of sight signals, eyesight records have gone beyond this right here, but this is just a good photo to show you that your horizon at a camera height of 1 foot, 12 inches off the ground, should be 1.2 miles away. But they saw these two oil rigs. One of them is 9.4 miles away. Where's the horizon? It's behind that,
Behind it.
behind something. That's impossible for the horizon to scorpion tail upwards and appear behind something when it should be in front of it. You should not be able to see this thing right here. And so right here, got the measurements for you. And that's the cool thing about biblical earth scientists. They give you all the numbers. You don't have to wonder what the numbers are. They show you how far away things are using
Yeah.
that 0.66 feet per mile squared formula. and you can do the math, and the curve's not there. Sometimes it may appear to be there due to the magnification properties of water, but world record photos right here, missing 3/4 of a mile of
Wow.
curvature. 3/4 of a mile. If you've ever ran 3/4 of a mile, imagine that being stacked straight up. That's how much curvature should be between you and these mountains in the distance, 275.267 miles away. So it's a world record for a reason. And the lighting does have to be a special way because that atmosphere, it's filtering out light. That's why this mountain here is more clear than the ones in the distance. As they get
Right.
further away, they get smokier. That's why the Smoky Mountains are smoky. There's water making them smoky. Eventually, they're going to disappear into that water. And so visibility will change with moisture. And that's just a known science. It's not a conspiracy. You can look that up. Sometimes you can see right in front of your face in the morning. I'm driving to work. I can't see in front of my car 2 feet because there's fog. It's water in the air. And so that's a small scale version of what we see in this large scale picture here, world records. And here's another really far one right here, 45.5 miles. So how much that should be hidden by. And so really, really far, seeing all the way to Crete from Israel. Large distances, but that's just line of sight. People can say refraction. Back in 1901, Guglielmo Marconi sent a line of sight signal. And if you don't know what that is, it's a signal like a radio signal that doesn't curve. It only goes in a straight line. Physicists told him it's going to be impossible. Don't even try to go across the Atlantic. The Earth curvature will stop that signal. And this guy must have known something because he said, I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to crank up the power. And he made that signal cross the Atlantic, 2,100 miles. That's 504 miles of missing curve.
That
was back in 1901. Do you think we've gone further since then?
Wow, bro.
We have. We've gone from England to Australia in 1918.
England to Australia with what?
England to
this
Australia.
Type of radio signal?
Yep. Tower height, 500 meters. The tower would have needed to be 38,596,302 feet tall, or 7,310 miles tall to make that.
So what are the excuses? What are people saying that why is this happening?
Refraction. It's bouncing off of the ionosphere hundreds of times off of a gas barrier, and these things, they don't bounce, they just go in a straight line. And so
yeah, because that would even prove a firmament if it's bouncing off something. I mean,
bouncing off of a barrier above us, so curvature or not, it would need a firmament. And so they're saying refraction, and nobody really talks about this one. When I bring this one up, they're like, "Oh, well, you had to use Google Maps," like they kind of deflect. But that is possible on a biblical Earth, sending signals that far. And reading old papers about this, they say there was a radio roof, what they called a radio roof, where when the sun, the sun would come out, it's like it would mess up their ability to communicate. So when the sky turns blue and it's electrified with that sunlight, it's like a neon light. It turns blue. And so they said it's like a radio roof. It's like somebody breathed the breath over the ether. They called it the ether back then. And the ether used to be in the periodic tables, and now they removed it. And so it's really, really interesting the things they're doing, but the proofs are stacking up, not just line of sight signals. We have Polaris, which never moves. Go out there. Point something at it. It'll be pointing at it all year long. And there's a star on Orion's belt that the ancients, they lined up their pyramids with. That's why the pyramids are usually coming in threes right here. They worshiped Orion. Look at the pose he's making. Does that not look like the Statue of Liberty? And all of these things got the hand in the air, the left foot forward. Baphomet pose is like that. They're always like that. Satan summoning his legions. So they worshiped Orion. That's why NASA now has their Orion spacecraft. And so it's a big part of their worship. And the cool thing about this one star, it stays on the equator all year. So if you have one star staying on the equator all year, one star not moving all year, that's 2 points of reference that are stationary throughout the year. And so to me, that proves we're not going around the sun on a tilting ball in all these different directions. It's impossible with those points of reference there. And you can see that even star trails with a graph here showing you remember 500,000 miles per hour. That's how fast we're going through the galaxy because of the Big Bang invented by a Jesuit priest. And we're going around the sun at 66,000 miles per hour or 66,600. And so the green represents our Big Bang explosion speed, 8,000 miles per minute. Okay, so think about that. If you're going almost 8,000 miles a minute, that is really, really, really fast. And so every minute, every 60 seconds, the Earth would go the distance of its own diameter with that speed. And then around the sun right here at second fastest motion, still shows up on the graph. Then you get to our spin, it's puny, tiny little dotted line here. However, when you look at star trails, which of those speeds do you think would impact the night sky? The one where you're moving the distance of your own diameter every minute? No, 16 and a half miles a minute right here. That's what makes perfect circles. Not spirals, not weird shapes because of all those other speeds. Don't worry about those. Your slowest motion, that's what makes perfect circles. That's what affects the night sky, they tell us. And
Wow.
so the speeds are really, really fast, hundreds of times faster than a bullet. It's a
Can I
roller coaster type motion. Go ahead.
can I show something? I want to show, because this made me think a lot when I was looking into this subject. Okay, so this is Earth's orbit around the sun at different times of the year, and I don't know if you can see my mouse, but picture you're at this one on the far right. If you're on Earth and you're looking at the night sky at the stars, you would have to look right at nighttime, because nighttime is always going to be the opposite side of the sun. So during this time of the year, this is winter, it says, Northern Hemisphere in winter, you're always having to look towards the right. Now imagine you're on that Earth and now it is late June. It's on the far left side. Which way are you having to look at the stars at night? Now you're having to look to the left.
That way.
So how are you ever going to see the same stars in December when you have to look to the right? And now you're on the other side of this gigantic ball of light that's 1,000 times bigger than Earth. It's 93 million miles away from Earth. And now you're on the other side of it. And you're having to look at stars the opposite direction. How could you ever see the same stars year round?
Yeah, put that to the test. Look at this illustration Mikey has. Go outside, look up at the night sky for 6 months. That's what I thought. I'm going to be on the other side of that sun if this is a heliocentric model.
Yeah.
I never got to the other side of the sun and saw the stars on the other side. And I asked one of my coworkers, I said, why don't we see the stars on the other side of the sun? She's like, I don't know. And I was like,
Good
I
answer.
don't either. Oh, well, move along. Next question. So, yeah, I think it's very important to test that stuff for yourself. Go look at the stars. See if every 6 months we're looking the other direction. And they'll say, oh, we're really small. It doesn't matter how small you are. I can't see the wall behind me for a reason because I'm facing this direction.
That's right.
And so right here, just some little verses for the biblical crew. The world is immovable. You can look that up. 1 Chronicles 16:30, all throughout the Psalms, 1 Samuel. And I mean, just everywhere in the word, that world being immovable, never being placed in motion. And like my dad said, and it just stuck, the earth is God's footstool. It's not his roller coaster.
Ooh.
It's an immovable. He's not riding around following a moving world. It is a footstool. And look at a footstool. It has pillars. You know, it has that dome shape to it, that barrier, something you can sit your feet on. And so he's above that circle of the earth. It's like a footstool. And so footstools don't move. And roller coasters, no matter how slow you go on this thing with these spiraling motions, even if you're not rotating, just sitting in a seat, you're going to feel it. And so we're not on a train. A lot of people like to use the train analogy. Throw a ball up on a train. Okay, a train has a barrier. The train's going in a straight line. We're on a pressurized ball in a vacuum chamber with an air pressure of 14.7 psi, moving 500,000 miles per hour, hundreds of times faster than a bullet. I think 288 times faster than a bullet. Just try to picture living on a bullet that's spiraling and going 288 times faster than that bullet, doing the same thing in a vacuum chamber. Life itself would be a miracle. You'd have to admit, okay, if that were true, if it were a Big Bang heliocentric model, there has to be some sort of intelligent designer that's like, I'm a master engineer. How can I solve the problem of a ball in a vacuum and make people live on it? Make it covered with water. Make the water stick to it while it's doing all these roller coaster things.
How can you have a ball in a vacuum and there be a pressure, like oxygen, air pressure on this earth that we can breathe, but when you fly up, eventually you pop out and you're weightless? Like, where is that barrier? Why does it happen? Oh, gravity. It's always like, the secret answer is always gravity no matter what, but why is gravity pushing oxygen to Earth all the time? I don't know if you're going to get into the concept of gravity.
It's a beautiful thing. Oxygen, I should have included some of that in this presentation because I've been learning about this stuff. And you have to think of creation from, there was a master engineer designing things to support his most precious creation, and that's life itself. You guys are his most precious creation, hands down. You could
Amen.
not offer him a mountain of gold for one of his elect.
That's
You
right.
can't bribe him. You are more important to anything to him. What does the Bible say his inheritance is? We're all concerned about where we go.
Mm,
What's his inheritance? His people. That's his
that's
inheritance.
right.
He's waiting
Amen.
to meet you guys. And so I
He
get
died
emotional
for
thinking
us.
about it because my whole life I've been programmed to, what about me? What about what about
Right.
my inheritance? What am I going to get? Oh, I'm going to be a joint heir with the Messiah. That's good. I've been a nice person. No, we're his
Mm,
inheritance. He's our inheritance. Him and being reigning with his son, something we don't deserve to do, joint heirs with the Messiah, like it tells us. Like it's a powerful inheritance. And
amen.
so I mean, it's just you guys are important. So when he's making his creation, he's going to make it sustain life. He's going to make the air that we breathe not have the same properties as helium. Imagine if he
Right.
messed up, he wasn't that good of an engineer, and the air we needed had the same density as helium. You can look at the densities of the air we breathe. It's more dense than helium, and it's the dense air that stacks up, right? The,
Yep.
from the ground up. And it's going to stack up to a certain height. That's why helium balloons max out at 33 miles. They can't go higher than that.
Wow.
They don't float in vacuum chambers. If you put a balloon in a vacuum chamber, it'll float until it reaches a vacuum and then it sinks. And so imagine
Mm,
that vacuum chamber being like a swimming pool. The helium balloon is in that swimming pool floating, right? You take out what it's floating on, the air, it's going to sink down. And so helium balloons only go until they reach the tippy top of our air. They can't go any higher, and they have a level where they stop. They cannot float in a vacuum. So it is essentially kind of like a vacuum above us, but it's really not. It has helium, it has the hydrogen gases, all those less dense gases that we don't breathe. And our gases stack up from the level where we live, the sea level, all the way above Mount Everest. He knew where his dry land was. He knew the outer limitations. We don't need air above that that's healthy
right.
enough to breathe because we're not going to be living up there. He knew when he designed the quantity of air that we needed, how much to put in there in our world to where it would cycle. And so he knew that when he made, he made plants before he made people. He made plants on day 3. They made the air that we would need to continue having our life sustained. Of course, he gave us that initial start with the breath of life, which has kept everything in this perpetual miraculous motion. And so helium only goes so high, but when you look it up and try to find out, well, what happens to helium while we're running out of it? They say, oh, it gets sucked into the vacuum of space. Well, if it doesn't float in a vacuum and it's on top of our air, why is it getting sucked away? And why is the vacuum of space going, I only suck up helium. I don't suck up other air. I'm going to
Right.
stop with helium. Like, why would it stop with helium? Helium doesn't float in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Why is it just sucking that up? And so there's
Are you gonna
gases that
get
are
in?
less than
Are you
helium.
gonna
So
get
it's very
into
scientific.
gravity at all, or?
Not really going to get into gravity. There's a lot of density aspects, and you saw those electromagnetic properties of the firmament. That's really an advanced science lesson.
Yeah.
But essentially, things stack up based on their density. That's why so what's it called? Sulfur. I'm trying to remember the name of the gas. I'm forgetting my gases here. Let me look it up real quick.
I want
Vacuum
to
of
bring up while
space.
you're looking that up. I want to bring up a point that maybe somebody's thinking about. Um, we're told that gravity is a force that pulls things down to the core of the earth. No matter where you're at on this ball, it's forcefully pulling things to the core, and that's why we're stuck on this earth, even though it's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. We're not getting thrown off of it. So ask yourself the question: how come when you let go of a helium balloon, it doesn't drop to the ground? It should. It's super light. If this is a force that's literally pulling things to the ground, it can hold dump trucks and buildings and oceans to this ball that's spinning so fast we should all be flying off of it. Why does a
Yeah,
helium balloon go up? Why does a butterfly not just fall to the ground? Why does a dandelion float in the air? Because it's not a force. That's like saying, and people will say, well, because it's too light. That's like saying Arnold Schwarzenegger is so strong that he can push a train car, but he can't lift a balloon. It makes
yeah,
absolutely no sense. So what's happening with this theory of gravity? It is a theory. You can look it up. It's not a fact. It's a theory of gravity, a well accepted one. But we're talking about buoyancy and density. We're talking about gases and the way they stack up. And that's what makes helium go up because it's lighter than air. And we've heard that all our life that helium floats because it's lighter than air, but that defies gravity. The whole idea that gravity is this force pulling things to the center of the earth.
Yeah, and helium has a known density. And I was buying helium balloons, and when you scan your items at self checkout, it says put the item on the scale. And I was buying a helium balloon. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. And
That's
so
fun.
it has a density though, 0.1785 grams per liter at sea level. Our air has a density of 1.225 grams per liter at sea level. And so a balloon that's got air in it is going to weigh more than a balloon that doesn't have air in it. But a balloon that has helium is going to be floating up on that air as if the air is water and it's a boat.
Right.
It's going upward. And so things stack up from sulfur hexafluoride. That's the name of the gas I was trying to think of. That's the one, if you breathe it in, which I find this fascinating. You breathe in sulfur hexafluoride, your voice gets real deep. You breathe in
Right.
helium, which is less dense than air, your voice gets real high pitch. I think that's fascinating that the two are like opposites. One's going downward. It's going to find its lowest point. You can fill up a tank with sulfur hexafluoride, an invisible gas. You can't see it. Take a boat made out of aluminum foil. You can make it float on sulfur hexafluoride. It looks
Hmm.
like it's defying gravity. You can't see the sulfur hexafluoride. It's there,
Wow.
but it floats on top of it. Remove and take some of that sulfur hexafluoride, pour it into the boat. It's going to sink, just like you're pouring water in it. And so that sulfur hexafluoride, that's why you find it way down deep in ocean hydrothermal vents, because it's gone down. It sinks down into the world. It keeps going downward. It's not like the oxygen that our Father master engineered to go where
Hmm.
his created life lives. And trees make that. And it doesn't float off like helium. When trees make it, it goes to his beloved creations. And
Wow.
so he's a master designer. And when you start seeing it like that, it makes sense why he
Amen.
made it, the density that he made it, why he made the water that we need for life to float, defy gravity, float up. Trillions of
Wow.
pounds of water just went over our heads the other day when it was raining. Trillions. I'm talking to my students on the other side of the country, and they're like, "Yeah, it's all cloudy and rain's coming down." I'm like, "You do realize we have trillions of pounds of water moving across the sky,
That's
defying
crazy.
gravity, and nobody cares. It's just like it's
That's
raining."
crazy, dude.
Yeah. Our Father designed it that way at creation. He designed it. He had to engineer it to do what it does, to give us life, to give us water, to give us air. And we can't even do it. Like the cells in the water, the algae, they are solar powered. They can use sunlight to make food, and they can make oxygen. Like imagine if we were like, "Hey guys, this inventor just made a solar panel that makes oxygen. We don't need trees anymore. We don't need electricity." Like that's what his
Hmm.
creation can do. It's extremely, extremely advanced, powerful stuff. It's really cool how much thought he put into his creation, and the biblical earth model, even after the flood, having properties where you see it opening up. And we read that because remember, he called the firmament heaven.
Yeah.
And that's where you start seeing stuff like this little story here. I missed this one where he's being baptized. He's got witnesses that see this. People go, why didn't Jesus talk about the flat earth? Well, because earth is just dry land. It's not really flat. So he didn't have to use those words. But it says it came to pass when he was getting baptized that Jesus also being baptized and praying. Imagine that, the Messiah praying, showing us how to live while he's being baptized. He's praying. He's in the middle of praying while he's being baptized, talking to
Wow.
his Father. The heaven was opened, that firmament was opened, and the Holy Ghost descended in a bodily shape like a dove upon him. And so he didn't need to stop and go, hold on, guys. I know y'all believe in the globe. The firmament's opening up. I'll explain later.
Hmm.
No, they believed in the biblical earth model. They weren't shocked. You never hear one account of somebody going, oh my goodness, I believed in the globe. What's this expanse opening up? No, they
Wow.
believed in the Bible. They knew that he called that firmament heaven, that it was still there. The windows of heaven were closed. And to close a window, you need a wall attached to them or some sort of barrier. And so he didn't need to give them a science lesson, but he did tell them, guys, he said, guys, as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be.
Yep.
He's telling them about the days of Noah. And if you look back to Noah, he was a conspiracy theorist until the fountains of that firmament up above us were opened.
Yeah.
And all those rains started pouring down, not the rain, but the water from the firmament above that he separated with day 2 of creation, lifting those waters up. They were coming down. Very similar to Noah, us being in those days of Noah, they're corrupting all flesh. Biblical earth believers, people that still believe in the Bible, will be called conspiracy theorists, just like Noah, until that firmament
Yep.
opens when he returns, parts like a scroll. Every eye sees him, not an image of him on a tablet, not some technological advancement. No, every eye will see him when he returns. And so that's possible because the biblical earth model is real. The heaven is going to part. And if there's still waters above the firmament, he's not going to flood the earth. Those waters are going to part. And it's probably why when he set his people free, he parted the waters. And when they were brought into the promised land, he parted the waters. So the Most High is capable of doing just that, parting the waters, parting the firmament. And so it's a powerful journey. There's so much proof out there, but put it to the test. I encourage all of you, don't take our words for it. I know we get called Bible thumpers and all these different things and science deniers. That's okay. Think of us as that, but put it to the test. And you're going to find out the word of our Father will hold up to any test you throw at him. The wisdom of this world is going to fall away. It's foolishness for that reason. And so 1 Corinthians 3:18-19, that's what we encourage all of you to do, and become fools with us, put it to the test. It's fun, but you are going to lose a lot of street cred, all the people that think you're wise. Because I remember nobody thought I was foolish until it was like, okay, now you're just really like all of a sudden you just lost IQ points, no matter what your degree is, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done. We have literal doctors and people working at universities who are right there being called fools, and they're in documentaries. And speaking of documentaries, let me tell you this, because I forgot about that. There's a good documentary coming out this Saturday. I think it's Saturday. I could be wrong. I think it might be Friday night or Saturday night. I have to look. There's a documentary coming out on YouTube. It's already out on Amazon. It's already out on the Roku channel. And it's a biblical cosmology documentary. And my brother and I were in it, and a bunch of other people were in it, people that work at universities.
What's it called?
It's called Origins Untold, Ancient Cosmology. And so it's a really, really, really good one. Well done, high quality. It's not forceful. It's not mean. Just giving you some good talking points, kind of the stuff we're talking about tonight. And they're following the journey of a skeptic, a guy who really was. He's not one of us, a believer like us back then. He was a legit skeptic going into it. He's like, all right, if you guys want me to do this documentary, I'll do it. And I'll go through and I'll ask people questions, but I'm not going to buy into it right away. I'm going to actually look into it for myself. And so that's what he's been doing. And it's really high quality film, Origins Untold. It'll be available on YouTube for those of you who are using YouTube. I'm assuming most of you are now, but that's what it's going to be available on this weekend. And so we're going to be going live, and I wished I had my phone with me so I could see the time. There it is. Origins Untold, Ancient Cosmology.
Awesome.
Big deal.
This is on, so it's not out yet, but it will be on Roku and it will be on Amazon.
It is on the Roku channel. It's already on the Roku. So if you're at home and you want to watch it on the Roku, it's there. Roku channel. You can even go on the website, therokuchannel.com, and look it up. Origins Untold, Ancient Cosmology. And I believe Amazon Prime has it. So it's a good one to share with loved ones. I mean, watch it yourself if you still have questions. And so if you guys have questions now, I'd love to answer some before we have to go.
Definitely. I see some people.
It's too good. Who guarantees us, friends, who guarantees us that we're going to see a next year, 2025? Anything can happen from now until next year. How much, if we die, how many of us can be assured heaven's my home? Friends, if we are living on a false hope, that needs to change. Beware procrastination. Do not put off the work of forsaking your sins and seeking purity of heart through Jesus. Now listen, here is where thousands upon thousands have erred to the eternal loss. Question: how many people have erred on this part of procrastination, of delaying putting away their sins? She says thousands upon this point have erred. I'm almost sure there's many people who have died saying, one day I'm going to stop sinning. Many people, one day I'm going to stop eating this. One day I'm going to start being faithful in my devotion. And guess what? That day have never come. Inspiration says, yes, where thousands upon thousands have erred to the eternal loss. I will not here dwell upon the shortness and uncertainty of life, but there's a terrible danger, a danger that is not sufficiently understood in delaying to yield to the pleading voice of God's Holy Spirit, in choosing to live in sin. For such a delay really is. Pause. When I delay to give up sin, what does the prophet say? Actually, no. When I delay to yield to the pleading voice of God's Spirit, what does she say I'm choosing to do? I'm choosing to live in sin. For such a delay truly is. So when I say I'm going to eat this finish first and then change, you know what you're saying? I want to live in sin a little longer. But sin is still attractive to me. That's what we're really saying. Well, we are saying that it's still attractive. Friends, let us not procrastinate. Let us not procrastinate. Now, I want us to see. I want to come to the conclusion of the matter now. Where did this man have his hope in? Come with me to Matthew chapter 3. Matthew, the 3rd chapter. We are going to Matthew 3. What has God set us in the world as? Watchmen and what? And light bearers. Now, what is our duty? What is our duty? What is our duty? The proclamation of what? The 3 angels' messages. How many of us understand these messages? Because this is our duty. How can we proclaim something we don't understand? How can we teach something we don't have an experience in? This is our duty, to feed the word with the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd angel. Now, I want you to see the headquarters, the heart of this movement. Where's the heart of the movement? The what? GC, the headquarters. I want you to see what the General Conference, a man inside the General Conference, had to say. Listen. What has God used to separate us from the world? The mighty cleaver of truth, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd angel. Listen.
So today, allow me to just briefly talk to you about Jesus Christ. Of course, when people ask me, what is it that you preach? Is it the 3 angels' messages? And I say, no, what I preach is Jesus.
Whoa. What did he say? When asked, do you preach the 3 angels? He says boldly, no, I don't preach the 3 angels' messages. Under the guise they hide behind this false theory, false message that they have, we preach Jesus. What Jesus? A compromising Jesus, not the Bible Jesus. This is another Jesus they're preaching. So when asked, do you cannot be up openly? No, this is not a second witness. You hearing from the man's own mouth. When I am asked, do you preach the 3 angels' message? I tell people no. Now let me tell you something. What separates us from the world and from the other denominations? The 3 angels. Can you see why he's uniting with the papacy? Because he doesn't believe in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd angel. And as I said it before, I say it again. If he's allowed to say things like this and go unrebuked and unpunished in the General Conference, it means that some of them hold the same sentiments. Yes. They themselves don't believe in the 3 angels. So that's why we can see things like this. That's why we can see the church leaders bring Adventist youth to a Sunday Catholic Eucharist Mass in order to build preachers. Why? Because the heart is sick. The headquarters, what's going to happen to the churches? Churches are going to be sick. You can sit in a Seventh-day Adventist church for an entire year and hear not one sermon on the 3rd angel. Not one sermon on the 3rd angel. Now let's move on. Are we in Matthew chapter 3? the Pharisees were coming to get baptized. And I want you to see John looking through some of them and listen to what he says in verse 9. Where was their hope of eternal life? It says in verse 9, and think not to say within yourselves, listen what they thought within themselves, we have Abraham to our father. Can you see where was their hope of salvation centered on? Abraham, the lineage of Abraham, that because I'm coming from Abraham's lineage, I'm going to heaven. Friends, is that our hope as well? Because I'm a part of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, because I belong to a Present Truth ministry, because I watch Present Truth, that means I'm going to heaven. Is that our hope built upon? I want you to see if that's our hope in a sad delusion, friends. Listen to this. Listen to this. Review and error. The prophet says, a mere profession of godliness, a name registered on church books, does not constitute one a child of God. What does inspiration say? Your name can be on the church books. You can belong to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, but that does not mean you constitute of being a child of God. She continues, to be a true Christian, it is necessary to be renewed in the knowledge and true holiness, to come out from the world and be separate and distinct from its customs and spirits. Friends, what does inspiration say? Merely having your name on the church, is it sufficient enough to save us? Now, let me say this. Do you know that in 22 million Seventh-day Adventists, how many Seventh-day Adventists there are today? 22 million. Do you know in the 22 million, inspiration would say in Christian Service 41 that not 1 in 20 Seventh-day Adventists are ready. Not for the Sunday law. She says not 1 in 20 are ready to die. They will be verily without God and without hope as the common sinner. So now let me ask you this. She says not 1 in 20 are ready. What percent is that? It has to be less than. Actually, you know what? We can say less than 5% is ready. Less than 5%. So 22 million, 5% of 22 million. That's what you more or less can say is ready. 5% of 22 million Seventh-day Adventists, only 5% is ready. Only 5. And that's still erring on the side of mercy. Erring on the side of mercy. Now, back to the rich man. I'm zooming in on the rich man because the rich man was the problem. What did the rich man not do? What did the rich man not do? He did not help. Friends, come with me to Galatians. I want you to see this. Come with me to Galatians. Did I say Galatians? Let's rather go to Timothy. Galatians says, do not become weary in well-doing. For if you faint not, you will reap in due season. And it says, we must do good unto all men, especially unto them who of the household of faith. That's Galatians 6, verse 9 and 10. But come with me to 1 Timothy. I want us to see 1 Timothy chapter 6. 1 Timothy chapter 6, and then I want to come to the conclusion. Friends, something's taking place. We've been covering it for the past couple of days back, or even a month ago. We've covered this leading up to this event. It's taking place as we are speaking now. It's taking place. Does anybody know what's taking place? And let me tell you, friends, we are nearing home. We are nearing home. I'm determined to go to heaven. I'm determined. We were talking today in our study about heaven. Can you remember, Kinwan? And people have desires to go to this place and that place and that place. But we said, you know what? To go to this country, you need a passport, you need a visa, you need this money. It's just a long list of things you need. But to enter into heaven, you don't need there's no amount of money. You don't need to pay a flight. You don't need to ask Elon Musk, can I jump in your spacecraft and pay? In order to go into heaven, the Bible says, come ye by. eat without money and without price. You know what that means? It's for free. But it's one condition is surrender. Surrender. 1 Timothy chapter 6. 1 Timothy chapter 6. Are we there? Verse 17. Tell me, who has God entrusted with the greatest wealth of truth? 7. Is that you? Now this verse then applies to you. Charge them that are rich in this world. Are you rich in this world? Yes, you're rich. You are rich with truth. It says, charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded. Don't think high of yourself. Nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God who gave us richly all things to enjoy. Now, what must we charge ourselves to do? That they do good. That they be rich in what? In good works. What must we do? Ready to distribute, willing to communicate. Are you distributing? Are you communicating? Distribute what? Distribute steps to Christ. Distribute great controversy. Distribute pamphlets. Are you also communicating what you're distributing? Paul says, charge them. Charge them. And then what does he say in verse 19? Laying up in store for themselves a good foundation against the time to come, that they might lay hold on eternal life. Friends, you know, we in heaven, there's going to be no one with a crownless star. You know that? A starless crown, sorry. Starless crown. Do you know everyone that has a crown on their head, they're going to have a star? At least, even if it's one star, they must have a star. Inspiration makes it clear in heaven, there's no crown without a star. Meaning that when you enter the kingdom, there's some soul that has come into the kingdom through your influence. Friends, what are we doing? The year is about to end. And we'll read quotations where the prophet makes it clear that when the year is concluded and as we enter into the new year, she says, ask yourself these questions, do self-examination. This year is past, have I brought one soul to Jesus? Just one. Just one. Have I labored to bring one to Jesus? And how many years have been passing? Now, obviously, we don't do it to count, I brought this. But she says, you examine yourself. I examine myself. Are we bringing someone to Jesus? I want to conclude. Friends, what I was saying something, there is an event that's taking place now. That the work, friends, probation is about to close. There's an event taking place as I'm speaking. On foot now, as I'm speaking. Do you know what's taking place? Sorry? Sorry? Hey, brother, you won't be able to keep the loud cry. You're not going to keep the loud. We have to speak up. Code 29. Code 29. Now, you say, what does this have to do with anything? Cope, do you know what's cope about? What is cope about? They only have one agenda. Only one. No, they don't have 100 agendas. Only one agenda. Do you know what's the agenda of POCO? Climate change. Only agenda. Someone says, what does climate change have to do with the end? Friends, based on Jesus, I'm not going there. Based on Jesus, Matthew chapter 24, verse 7, the last thing Jesus mentions is earthquakes. And then he mentions beginning of sorrows and persecution. In other words, climate change is the last event in verse 7, which is the springboard to persecution. In great controversy, she says that Satan, while appearing to the children of men as a great physician that can heal their maladies, he'll bring disease and disaster until populous cities are reduced to ruins. Then she says in the great conflagrations, fierce tornadoes, terrific hailstorms, tempests, floods, cyclones, in 1,000 forms and ways Satan has exercising his power. Then the great deceiver will persuade men that those who serve in God are causing this evil. It will be declared men are offending God by the violation of the Sunday Sabbath, and that this sin has brought calamities which will not cease until Sunday observance shall be strictly enforced. So, question, based on Ellen White, does climate change give birth to the Sunday law? Climate change. Friends, hear me. Sunday law is coming. Sunday law is coming, and let me tell you how it's coming. Earthly week Sabbath, climate Sunday. Earthly week Sabbath, climate. Now, we've covered this. at least twice this event, we're covering it again. The Vatican just spoke at COP29. They just spoke at COP29. The Secretary General just spoke at COP29. I want you to see, I'm coming back, we'll close now. Trump and Putin had a phone call. He's not even yet president of America yet, he's president-elect. He was on the phone with Putin. We got it here. Some things were said. We'll see if we can get there. But come back here. I want you to see what it says. When was this? Wednesday, November the 13th, 2024. It says, Pope Francis calls for global financial revolution to fight climate change. What is he talking about? It says Pope's message to the United Nations COP29 event contains support for the group's goal to orient global finance to the implementation of climate change policies, something drawn from the Great Reset agenda of Klaus Schwab. It's the New World Order. What does he want? A financial revolution to fight what? Climate change. A financial revolution. I wonder if that financial revolution has to do with no buy and no sell on Sunday. I wonder. Pope says, COP29, no further delays, the Pope's message to COP29, no further delays allowed on climate. Pope tells COP29. In other words, don't delay it no longer. Again, this was the what do you call him? The ambassador for the Vatican at COP29. How do you pronounce his name? There's his name, yeah? Yes, at COP29. It says global community must act how? So what are they calling for? What are they calling for? Immediate action and no delay. This is just from the Vatican. It says here, the unholy see to COP29. Indifference is an accomplice to injustice. What are they saying? That if you don't act, you're going to be an accomplice to injustice, meaning you're going to be responsible for these calamities. You all must act now. What does the Pope say is the solution for climate change in Laudato Si? Sunday, right? Now, friends, we've covered this thing in our prophecy update. I'm not getting into this now. I want you to see. This is a clip. Actually, I'll come back to that clip. I'll come back to that. I'll come back to this. I'll come back to this. What does it say here? Look at what this says. Let's blow it up. Let's blow it up. Let's blow it up. What does it say? What COP29 needs? A new solution without spending a dime. What do they mean? A new solution without spending a dime. Imagine a world where we can combat climate change without spending a dime. The weekly Earth Sabbath offers just that. Oh, friends, what? Did not God say it? Jesus, did not the prophet predicted that the Sunday law comes through climate change? What has been discussed here? A weekly Earth Sabbath. By dedicating one day a week to minimal environmental impact, we collectively harness the power of conscious living. Question then, if there's a little group that don't want to come along with this agenda that COP29 they say must push, then who's the enemies of the natural disasters? Who's the people bringing it? It's the Seventh Adventists. Friends, to be blamed for something, oh, you don't know what pressure. Now, I want you to see this, what the prophet says. Listen to what she says. They will point to the calamities of land and sea, to the storms of wind and floods, the earthquakes, the destructions by fire. Is that climate change? Yes. As judgments indicating God's displeasure because Sunday is not sacredly observed. These calamities will increase more and more. One disaster will follow close upon the heels of another. Friends, I just never have time to show you. Spain was of another. These will increase because Sunday is not sacredly observed. These calamities will increase more and more. One disaster will follow close upon the heels of another. Friends, I just never have time to show you. Spain was filled with flooding. People died literally. I never have time to show you clips and videos. Literally, the place was flooded in Spain. People literally died. It was like rivers running down the roads. Cars were moved. Houses were moved. And guess what? That was a couple of weeks back. They just got another flood in a couple of days now. Non-stop, as the prophet says, one calamity on the heels of another. That's Christian service. Maranatha, she says, Satan puts his interpretation upon events, and they, the leading men, think as he would have them, that the calamities which fill the land are results of Sunday breaking. Can you see how does Sunday law come based on the prophets, based on Jesus, natural disasters, climate change? Now let's come back here. Now this article, what does it say? COP29, weekly Earth Sabbath practice to support climate goals. COP29 and the role of a weekly Earth Sabbath can play in combating climate change can be significant. Friends, help me. What is brewing? What has been discussed? In connection with COP29 as it's taking place. A what? A Earth Sabbath. A weekly Earth. Friends, let us not become numb to events. Let us not, you know why? We see the event and it indicates a crisis and God in his mercy delays. And you know what happens? We become more numb. Why? Because in mercy, he says, my child, you're not ready. Let me hold it just a little bit for you. And instead of saying, Lord, thank you, let me advance, we become more numb, more paralyzed, so to speak. I want you to see, listen to this.
Welcome to a journey of global climate action, where international cooperation meets individual responsibility. COP29 in Azerbaijan introduces an innovative 2-week truce proposal, setting the stage for groundbreaking climate discussions. Inclusion and diversity take center stage, ensuring all voices are heard in shaping our planet's future. Developing nations step into the spotlight, bringing unique perspectives and innovative solutions to COP29. Introducing the Earth Sabbath, a grassroots movement promoting weekly environmental consciousness and action. The math is simple, yet powerful. 1 day of reduced consumption each week can cut energy use by 1/7. Earth Sabbath transcends...
Pause, friends. In connection with COP29, what has been discussed? A Earth Sabbath. A Earth Sabbath. 1 day a week. 1 day a week. Now, friends, look at this. This is this movement, Earth Sabbath, in connection with COP29 and Laudato Si.
Pope Francis introduces weekly Earth Sabbaths, uniting humanity in environmental care. Laudate Deum focuses on the urgent climate crisis, building on Laudato Si. Key themes include urgent action and spiritual transformation for environmental care. Earth Sabbath, a weekly practice of environmental care and reflection. The weekly Earth Sabbath movement promotes environmental stewardship and mindful reflection. Pope Francis emphasizes unity in diversity to address climate change effectively. Weekly Earth Sabbaths foster unity among diverse...
Pause. What do they clearly say Pope Francis is saying is the solution for climate change? Weekly Earth Sabbath. This is the general, the United Nations general. He spoke at the event. This is what at COP29 it says. The UN Secretary General calls for urgent collaboration to halt what? Catastrophic climate change. Listen to him.
President Aliyev, I thank you, the COP President Mukhtar Babayev, and the government of Azerbaijan for your welcome and hospitality. The Presidents can count on our full cooperation in your efforts to achieve the successful COP we all need. Excellencies and friends, the sound you hear is the ticking clock. We are in the final countdown to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And time is not on our side. Exhibit A 2024, with the hottest day on record.
What are they saying? We got no more what? Time left. We need to act and do something immediately. This event is still taking place now. Still taking place now. Friends, let's conclude. I want to conclude here. Let's conclude. She says we should cherish our hatred for sin, rich man, Lazarus, but pity and love for the sinner. Sometimes we love the sin and hate the sinner. But we should hate the sin and love the sinner. All around our souls are going down to ruin, as hopeless, as terrible as that which befell Sodom. Every day the probation of some is closing. Every hour some are passing beyond the reach of mercy. And where is the voice of warning and entreaty to bid the sinner to flee from his fearful doom? Where are the hands stretched out to draw him back from death? Where are those who with humility and persevering faith are pleading with God for him? Friends, are we pleading for sinners? Are we doing something to bring sinners to Jesus? What are we doing? What are we doing? Desire of ages, I conclude. There are many who need the ministration love of a Christian heart. Some people just need love of a Christian heart. They need some love, some encouragement. Many have gone down to ruin who might have been saved. That quotation always gets me. There are people today dead who could have been saved in their graves. Can you believe that? People are dead today who could be saved. And I believe if we had influence to save that person, God's going to ask us to give an account. Give an account for that person's blood. She says many have gone down to ruin who might have been saved if their neighbors, common men and women, have put forth personal effort for them. Many are waiting to be personally addressed. Are we personally addressing people? When last have we personally addressed someone concerning their salvation? When lost? Friends, let's conclude. May God help us. Bottomwards, evidence of conversion. No sooner is one converted than there's born within him a desire to make known to others what a precious friend he has found in Jesus.
Visit J.B.T. Media on all social media. Like, follow, share, and subscribe. Thank you.